everyone, my name is Marianne, and welcome to another episode of Skill to Chill. Skill to Chill is a series where I talk to different college students about what their talents and hobbies are and how they acquired it. So we want more people to embrace all their skills and realize that there's much more to life than academics. So join with me today. I have one of my good friends, Aayush. Aayush was one of the few first friends that I made in college, and he's from Pune, so I got to see more of Pune from him. So Aayush, tell me about your skill to chill.
So my skill to chill would probably be cricket. If you talk about my experience in cricket, I've represented my state um, at a tour in Chennai, and I've played multiple tournaments throughout my life. I started playing cricket when I was around five. My dad exposed me to a lot of different activities, and he made me go for coaching and practice when I was like really young, and made sure I practiced at least like 3 to 4 hours a day. And then I kept on changing academies, and eventually I reached a point where I got good at what I was. And then eventually, as I said, represented my state, my school, my college, etc.
Okay. And during COVID, have you acquired any new skills?
So during COVID, because we couldn't go out and play cricket, and that's basically half of my life, I had to pick up a new skill. So my dad introduced me to the stock market. At first, I was a little skeptical about learning about stocks because I'm not a huge fan of math and numbers, etc. But eventually, when I realized the financial side to it, the economical side to it, it intrigued me a lot because I think it's a line of exposure because my uncle also works in the field of economics, so he got me exposed to it as well, and then that just grew a certain interest in me.
Okay. What are some other concepts or something that you learned from either cricket or stock market? Because I know sports, they have like leadership skills or team building skills. So are there any other skills that you learned alongside these two skills?
um, as you said, leadership, and I think I'd like to emphasize on one really important skill that works for any activity, any skill that you choose to pick up, and that's communication. Without communication, absolutely nothing is possible, because I even picked up an interest of doing internships during this COVID situation. And throughout my time with those 2 3 companies, I realized that communication is key to everything, and without that, your your aim to complete a skill or achieve a skill is incomplete.
So what are some struggles or challenges you face with either of these skills?
I think one of the most important struggles that I faced during cricket, if we're talking about that, is confidence. I lost a lot of confidence when I put on a lot of weight midway through my journey, and that just hampered my mental health as well. I think confidence is one of the key attributes that you need to achieve a skill. And if you talk about the stock market, I think it's being consistent that I lack, and something that I'm working on, because without consistency, nothing's possible.
So you have two skills. You have cricket and you have, involving yourself with the stock market. Do you differentiate between like one of them as taking it up as a career and one of them as a hobby, or are they both like something that you see a future in your career? Like, what are your thoughts on
Um, I think it's a path that you need to choose along your journey of life. So, if you're talking about cricket, when I was around 12 or 14 or 16, to be honest, I thought that cricket would be my life career and something that I'd pursue when I grow up. But down the line, you realize that there are some skills that you lack, some skills that someone else has that you don't have. So I think it changes. And about stocks, yes, I think I do have a future in it. At least the scope of financial advisory does make sense as a career option. So I'd look into that later.
that? And what are like are there any skills that you think are like mandatory for teenagers or something that every teenager should have?
I know I mentioned this again, but I think it's consistency. Because what some people do and what some teenagers, what I did for a very long time is, you know, pick up a hobby, do it for a while, as long as your interest stays in it, and then give up because you're not consistent or you've lost interest. You're never going to reach like your full potential unless you're consistent at doing the same thing day in day out without performing it with full effort. So I think consistency, and then I think time management, something that I failed to do. Uh, us teenagers tend to pick up a lot and like different, various, diverse skills and try to manage it and juggle it all. And eventually you realize that you're not able to manage one, and then you realize you're not able to manage all. So probably stick to one and manage your time well and be consistent is something that I'd suggest.
But don't you also think that consistency comes with interest? Like those two go hand in hand, like finding something that you're interested in, finding something that you love to do. And that can't really be established without actually trying everything out to find out what you actually love.
Yeah, I think consistency and interest are completely interwoven. But at some point, you realize that it's just become a daily activity. And if you see yourself doing that in the future and seeing yourself, excel at it, being consistent, whether you like it or not, is mandatory. So there's some stuff that every teenager doesn't like to do, but eventually they realize that it has some life value, it has, some meaning behind it. So being consistent uh, does have everything to do with interest, but it's something that you have to deal with.
Okay. And in terms of like COVID and the lockdown, that's when you got into the stock market business. Do you have any other like ideas or options to give to teenagers who are struggling to gain skills because of the lockdown? Like besides stock market, do you think there's anything else that they can take up during this circumstances?
I think something very simple would be reading a newspaper. I know this sounds very cliche and I know every parent says this, but I think it's very, very, very important to be well interconnected with what's going on around the world, not just around your surrounding. Because each and every event that's happening right now is going to hamper your life eventually. So being well versed with, you know, what's happening around you and just expanding your knowledge, reading books is very important. And I think that's something that we can do now since we have a lot of time in our hands, since we're sitting at home, in lockdown.
Okay. And lastly, I know you talked about consistency and motivation. So do you have like one like final message that you want to give to fellow teenagers or college students about how to pursue their skills and like make a name or a career out of it?
Uh, Again, I'm going to speak from personal experience, and I think every teenager should keep this in their mind. Somewhere along the line and down your path of life, you're going to realize that you're not making a lot of progress at what you're doing, and not, doing really well at the skill that you've chosen to pick up. But it takes time to excel at something, and only once you excel at something do you feel satisfied, do you feel happy. So don't give up is all I'd say.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Ayush, for taking time out of your day to come and do this interview for me. And also, thank you everyone for watching. And please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And visit our website, slaylife.in, to know more about us. Thank you. Bye.